Hello again, I'm Hugh. Today I'm going to show you how to build the small quick build glider. This is not a stunt plane as such, it's a glider. And you can see it's quite a small plane. Here we have the fuselage, here we have the wing, and here we have the tail wing. Those are the parts you'll need. You're going to need a pencil or something to mark with, scissors, you need something to glue with. You're going to need these sticks. A lot of this comes in the kit anyway, but not the glue. And you're going to need a weight for balancing the plane, and that is some sort of modelling clay. This is plasticine, and you're probably going to need half of that amount that comes in one of those packs. Just concerning the use of glue, I use a contact adhesive. That contact adhesive you put on both surfaces, and when it's dry you bring it together, and it says on the thing 5 minutes. You can leave it for much longer than 5 minutes to dry, but it's dry before you bond it, which is quite a difficult thing to understand if you're used to using a glue like this. If you're going to use an all-purpose glue, a PVA glue, then you're going to need little things to clamp it. These bulldog clips, paper clips of various sizes, raid the pegs, get some pegs, or you can just put weights on some of it until it's dry. Towards the end you're going to use gum tape. I'm going to start by just illustrating how these things might fit together. You've got, this is the fuselage, these fold out, the wing sits on top, and then you've got these two bits that make a tail and a fin. So I'm going to glue these together here and here to create a strong bond with a flange that opens out, so that I can stick this on top. So this is the area here that I'm going to glue first. Eventually I'll put glue on there as well, but I'm going to start there. Now the other bit I need to put glue on is the tail. And the tail is that long, and so if you ignore this line here, that's the elevator, that's going to hang out the back of the fuselage, so we just need to get the glue in that area there. So I'm putting glue here, here, here and here. So we put it onto a sheet that we've marked up so that we know where we're gluing, and the glue is going to go on into those places. You put some on the areas that you know you're going to glue. Think of a thin smear on those surfaces. These sticks are useful. You can use anything to spread the glue. So I'm spreading it with the edge of the stick. We want it to go right into those edges there. Same on here. So I put this to dry. So with contact adhesive it's going to be 5 minutes to dry. The wing, which is going to sit on the top, if you can see here, we've got those lines there, and I'm just going to cut into those lines there, there, there and there. That's going to help us with the shape of the wing later, but it's also marking where the wing sits on the fuselage. So this is the area I'm going to glue up. So we're spreading this. Now when the glue is wet it just rubs off. When it's dry you won't get it off anything. Okay, so now we're putting that to dry. So the next bit is, can we prepare the tail? So the tail section's in two parts. This bit is the fin, and that bit is one side of the tail section. This bit is going to get glued onto the fin. So we can bend this over anything. You could bend it over a ruler, you could bend it over a piece of wood. The edge of a table might not be square enough, but if it is square then you go with that. So what we want is that to come up over the edge there. So we are going to line it up very accurately and bend it upwards. Once you've got the crease in, you might be able to improve that crease. You don't want it to go any further than that, and the same thing is going to occur on here. So we're lining it up with that mark and we're bending it. So which one's the fin, which one's the tail? Oh, they're the same size, so This one here is the fin. Now the fin is the bit that stays up and it has a rudder on it. These are the elevators on the side, on the edge here, that little line. This is going to get glued together like that. So what we want is some glue on here. So the glue is going down here. Way too much glue, but this time I'm going to just share that glue with this surface here. Now I can't leave it there to stick because it won't stick. It won't stick till it's dry. So those two bits, if you can see them, they've just got a thin smear on. I'm putting those to dry on the drying sheet. It's always a good idea to have some space where you say that's happening. When this glue is dry, I'm going to start by joining this fuselage together. Now, complication, I want to join this, I don't want to join that. I don't want to join that together because I've got to put the tail in. The tail's not ready yet. It might be easier to use something like that, just there. Anything, but you've got to keep the fuselage flat on the surface. And that's probably a little bit too wide. I'm just trying to make sure I don't end up with my tail already glued in with no tail in it. So on the flat surface there, I'm bringing these together. They want to line up, and I'm lining them up. So these two flanges are absolutely the same. That's all flat, that's all square. But remember, I didn't put glue on those flanges, so they're ready to fold out. So keep that in there, and we're folding these out. Put glue on this top flange. Remember, you only want enough glue to create a smear, and you won't be able to make a smear with a nozzle, so you're using the stick. That plasticine does actually work as a good idea for holding that open, but if you've got a friend with a pencil, job done. So now this is dry, so I'm going to bring the tail together. Again, you're using the flatness of a table to push them together, and you're lining them up, and you can see on here we're lining them up. These lines go right across, they go up the tail fin as well, right? So I'm putting them in line and then pushing them together, and because it's contact adhesive you don't have a second chance, and we just want a thin smear on the outside of the tail section, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, so we'll leave that to dry, and the tail is going to go in like this. This is holding it apart. If you take that out, it springs together, you haven't got the tail in, you're going to tear the cardboard. So you're holding it carefully, get whatever you've got in there out of the way. Quite often it's a pencil and somebody's holding it, somebody very patient, but if you use a bit of plasticine, that's a good idea. So this slides in, so I'm putting this in here, and the procedure is, can you see this point here? It's in line with that line. That's an elevator. This is a rudder that's going to evolve out of the fin, and we are going to bring this together so it lines up like that. And we're using the flat of the table to make sure it stays flat. So now we've got this. This is dry as well. Can you see that the flaps are going to go towards the back, and we've got this line here, and we can see it on the underside. But actually it's not that easy to see on that side, so if you just mark your way round we can see that line, and if you do it at both ends, so we're just taking that mark round so you can see it on the top side as well as the underside. So now we've got these two marks. You could rule a line, but all you want are those 2 points because you're going to add them to here. So if you can get in and see that is touching there and that is touching there, and then you're pressing it together. We are going to stiffen the wing and the tail wing with a piece of wood. This is a coffee stirrer. That one will fit beautifully there. We're putting it at the front of the wing in order to create more turbulence over the top of the wing, and we don't put it at the back, we put it at the front. And so if we put it right on the front, it's going to create drag, but if we bring it back a bit, it's going to create a little bit of turbulence, which will help. So the stiffener on the back has to be a bit shorter, so we're going to take a complete coffee stirrer and cut it down. So you can vary the length of that, but I'm going to cut that at 40 millimeters, and it will cut with a pair of blunt scissors. So that one is going to get stuck there. Here's the stick we want to stick on there. It's 140 millimeters long, so the middle of that is 70, and we could, just for the sake of it, mark up the ends there and there. So that's where it's going to fit between back, but it wants to be parallel with the leading edge of the wing. So you can see it's going to fit in there. I've got a target where I'm going to go for. I've got way too much glue on. I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to put it where I want it. And it's going to leave the glue on there. I'm then going to pick it up. Bit of dexterity. I'm putting that to dry over there. Okay, so when all of this is dry, we are quite simply just putting the stick, which has glue on it, lining it up and sticking it on top of the wing, so it's just there. Simple enough. And it's bonded all the way along, and it's stopped that wing from flexing, which is what the airframe needs. So now we're going to do the same on the bottom here, and this one's going to go in there. So remember, it was 40 millimeters, so I can, don't put it right on the tail, right on the back edge of the tail, because that is where the elevators are. So we're looking at a couple of marks, 20 millimeters either side of the center line, and that stick is then going to go in there. So same process, glue on here, glue on there. So is this dry? Yes. Is that dry? It's had its 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I line it up, press it in, and it's rigid. Good. So now review the shape of the ends of the wings here. So you might have to take it off the end of the table. You can use anything, you could do it freehand, but why not get rid of some of this? You are then cutting some shape into this wing. And the same on that one. It's got to be symmetrical, it's got to be balanced. So if you did it freehand, then you could just take one of these and put it on the other one and draw around it. The same thing can be done here. If I use my hand as a compass, don't know whether you can see that, I'm just going to swoop that in and create the curve that I want. If I cut that off, do it in one nice movement, like I said, I could now put that over. So what I'm looking at is a symmetrical shape over here, and sketch it in, and that shape is going to get cut. And I'm using the scissors to straighten that curve. You might want to find a way of being a bit more laborious with it. This one on the top here, oh, I'm just going to trim it. It's the same sort of shape. I don't have to be symmetrical because there's only one of them. So you've got a rudder in place should you need it, and you've got elevators. The next thing you've got is this shape here. You can curve this down slightly to give the wing a bit more of what's called an airfoil cross section. So it'll help give it lift. If you push those too far down, it will just create drag. So you're curving, you can see the cardboard wants to curve, you're curving that in. The other thing is the front of the wing here is quite blunt. The cardboard's just been cut through, so it's 3 sheets of paper. If you just squeeze it in, you'll make that front edge nice and sharp. The plane is not balanced. So I've made a mark here, which is just in front of the middle of the wing. The wing is 80 millimeters, the middle of the wing is at 40 millimeters, and I've gone to 38 millimeters back from the leading edge. And I've put these marks in with a pencil, and that's where I would create a pivot, my balance point. So if I was to use scissors or my fingers, I can see that it's very tail heavy. So fingers are good enough. Oh, it's very tail heavy, so I'm going to have to put a weight in the front. So start with a ball of plasticine. You want the weight as far forward as possible, and obviously we're losing a bit on drag because we're making a big shape at the front. But even if it comes further forward, it's going to produce... Oh, it's still not heavy enough, so I'm going to get another bit, and I keep adding it on until I know I've got roughly the right amount of weight. Now, oh, it's starting to be nose heavy, which is a lot better than tail heavy. I'm just going to take a small bit off now and see if that works. The position of the plasticine will obviously, that's balancing now. The issue is, how do I hold that in, right? Well, we think, oh, I'll just smear it all the way back. Well, obviously that'll change the weight, won't it? It'll just push the weight back towards the rear of the plane. So it has to stay roughly in the same place. So what you need now is you need some of the tape. So it's gum tape. It comes with the aeroplane. So you're going to cut into sections of this and create something that holds the tape. So is this sponge damp? Yeah. Get the tape wet, and obviously cardboard and water, woohoo, yeah, not so clever. So you want to get the right amount of dampness onto the tape. Do I want this to come all the way around here? Yeah. So you're going to end up with a sort of hammerhead sharp for a while until you smidge it in. And it's paper and glue, so it'll bandage up, and you smooth it all in. Obviously I didn't want to get it too wet, and it's all joined up. You can use any spare bits of tape to make the fuselage look nicer. You don't want that, be able to see the fact that it's got cut cardboard there, so we're getting rid of that. It also gives it a bit of rigidity, so you could do the same down here. It just gives it more rigidity to have that. But if you keep pushing more and more of it on, it's going to get heavier and heavier, and your weight's going to change. Do we want a piece there? If we did, that's where it's critical not to add too much weight. So I would definitely make it a small piece of tape, a thin piece of tape. And you think, well, there's hardly any weight there. But you'll be surprised how that interferes with the performance of the aircraft. If you want to practice with the tape, there's plenty of it in your kit. So now this is ready to go, and we can test how it flies. Hold it at the centre of gravity. Okay, obviously you can decorate the plane with felt tip. You make it heavier with felt tip or paint, it won't work so clever. So we can give it a dihedral here. You can see where that crease is, and you're just bending it up. Only one swift bend. If you start waggling it, you'll lose all the strength in the cardboard. So that is pushing the air that would want to get on top of the wing and push it down. It's pushing it away. It's called a dihedral. You're able to control the flight of the glider with these elevators here. You won't get much change by changing this. Just make sure that's curled down, and that's about it. But here, this is the lever on the aircraft. So if you push it up, that's up elevation. You put it down, it's down elevation. If you need to change direction, there's a rudder. The plane, it's not a stunt plane, it's a glider. You should be able to get it to glide about 50-60 meters if you were indoors in a hall. It'll probably do the length of any room that you've got quite easily. So throwing it between people would be a good idea. The plasticine's on the nose, make it nice and safe, and of course you've got more than one, but actually it's just a piece of cardboard, so you go and build your own, just cutting out the templates and using the skills. And when you're feeling confident, go and get some balsa wood and make one that's even lighter.